Okay, welcome back to TribPreps with us tonight. First round of playoffs for the WIAA in football. We both saw blowouts, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start as we usually do. We'll kind of talk about what happened tonight in the first round of the playoffs. We'll start with scores, starting with our bigger division. River Falls 40, Central 20. So the Riverhawks season ends at the hand of the Wildcats for the second year in a row. Holman lost 56-7 to West Appear. Thought there might be a little better showing there, but West Appear is legit and kind of has been all season. Holman is just kind of on a roll. On to Division 3, Onalaska 48, Ashland 6, West Salem 49, Wapaka 0. So that potential showdown stays alive. Division 5, Aquinas 51-8 over Durand. Colby beats GET 49-16. And then Division 6, Onalaska Luther, first playoff win since joining the WIAA. They win 26-14 over Markesan. Westby comes up just short against Belleville with that incredible passing attack down there. Belleville wins 27-20. Cashton rolls over Deerfield, 44-6. Bangor 33-6 over Wazeeka Steuben Seneca. Blair Taylor comes up short against River Ridge, 52-20 in that game. Those are all Division 7 games. 8-player DeSoto, first year as an 8-player team, 56-32 over Port Edwards, and they'll play again next week. So let's start with your Aquinas game. You were out there. By the way, Todd Sommerfeldt, sports editor, James Krause here, as we are every Friday night. Forgot to do introductions, sorry. But last week we had the big West Salem Aquinas game. Aquinas comes up short in that one. West Salem wins it. They obviously bounce back.
Yeah, and it was something both you and me talked about when we got chances to talk to Tom Lee, is just what sort of the attitude coming out of that was. And not only coming off their first loss of the season, but putting them back as a third seed. And they talked about basically having, a little time to get over it. And then basically, from Tom Lee's perspective, this has been one of their best practices all season. And it showed early, 30-0 at the end of the first quarter, 3 Flottmeyer touchdowns, and a pick 6 from Trey Barr, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And it was just from there, it was, they looked like they had a lot of fun doing, in this first quarter and really took care of business then. And it was 44-0 at halftime. It was running clock from there. Flottmeyer finished 4 touchdowns, 260 passing yards. Just a walk in the park, it felt like, for Aquinas.
Same thing in Onalaska. That's where I was tonight. My game was 36-0 after one quarter. But
it felt more like less the teams were facing the teams they were facing, and more just who can get to 30 or 36. Yeah.
Well, we had West Salem at 28 in the first quarter too, so we had a lot of that going on tonight. That's kind of how the first round tends to go at times, though. Onalaska completely overmatched Ashland in this one. I think I figured out their first 16 plays, they averaged over 20 yards a play. Brady Kuhn had an 87-yard touchdown run. Nicky Odom, 60-yard punt return for a touchdown. That came after Ashland's first possession, so Anna had a lead before even having the ball. And really kind of went out and took care of business in that one. I think I had Ashland with 38 yards on their first 30 plays, and then they put together a touchdown drive at the end. This one, coaches agreed to a running clock in the second quarter, and then they actually cut down the quarters to 10 minutes and running clock in the second half of this one. So Anna had came up with a plan, went out, executed it against this team that the Hilltoppers knew they were better than that team in that game. But going out and doing it on the field is something different. So we had our top teams go out and do that. Again, West Salem, same thing there, 49-0 over Wapaka. As I said, Brett McConkey, I think he only carried it twice and scored both times net over 100 yards. And it was 2 carries for 102 yards. 62-yarder and a 40-yarder. Plus he had a 36-yard touchdown pass.
He was the guy you mentioned, is him and Flottmeyer basically sort of player of the year.
Well, I mean, those are 2 names that are in it. Obviously, there's more than that. I mean, Colin O'Neill's having a great year at Cashton. That's another one to look at. And there's more outside of them, but with what McConkey is doing week in, week out, it's just really impressive, I think. He played really well against Aquinas, I thought. Goes out in this one, completes all 5 of his passes, has a touchdown pass in there, carries it twice, long touchdowns on both of them. The kid's just kind of been unstoppable, and he's been just as good defensively for the Panthers this year too. So lots of blowout wins. We have to talk about Luther. Like I said,
Yes.
first win. They had an important stretch in that one where they had a 4th down stop. And then the next play, Jackson Kendall throws a 70-yard touchdown pass to Nathan Riley, gives them some breathing room in that one. Don't have a lot more in terms of details on how that one went, but Landon Bryant rushed for 82 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. Riley also had 2 touchdowns. Another good game for Kendall, who's just a sophomore. He was 8 for 9 for 197. So that's a 6 beat and a 3. So that's kind of the upset that we had tonight. I thought GET, as I said, I thought might play a little better in that game, although Colby's a very good team going into that. Bangor, another big game. Colin O'Neill, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns for Cashton tonight. That's another big game for him. DeSoto, 56 points. They're going to get a rematch with Belmont next week. Belmont beat them last week. It's the only loss DeSoto's had this season.
Westby took a 3rd seed down to the wire as well. They took Belleville. They tied it up finally after sort of having to chase them down all game. They tied it up at 20-20. Unfortunately, Aiden Keys got a touchdown pass late. He's been really good for Belleville this season, and he helped them pull that one out.
He had 2,500 passing yards coming into this game.
Yeah.
And what was it, 35 touchdowns, 4 picks?
Yeah, a ridiculous amount.
And
they
Westby picked him off twice today.
Yeah, so they put themselves in a position to certainly win that one down the stretch, and we could be talking about 2 pretty major 6 beating 3s tonight. But
yeah, they got Rhett Stensline back last week. That's a big deal for Westby, and he had a decent game, it looked like, tonight for them to 89 rushing yards, it looks like. Yeah.
Central lost 40-20, but I mean, when you look around the rest of some of the games we covered, a 40-20 loss to a top seed isn't half bad, especially when you consider the sort of up and down season that they've had.
Yeah, and that's a team that obviously Central is familiar with. River Falls lost twice to them last year, 2nd year in a row that River Falls has ended the Central season, but they got to play in the game. That was the important thing. Go out. The seniors get to go out with a big win in the ARC game over Logan, get to the playoffs, and can't pull it out there, but they got to go and represent the school and and everything there. Holman, again, nothing to hang their heads about, I think, in that one for winning 5 straight at the end of the season and then giving themselves a chance there. Obviously, they wanted a closer margin, I'm sure, at that one, but like I said, ran into a really good team there, and if a defense can figure out that option offense, it has it figured out. There's not much then you can do to counter that if that's what you're into. So let's see. I don't know if I said Harley Shams. I wanted to mention for DeSoto, 24 carries, 179 yards, had 3 touchdowns in that game for them. In terms of other big performances, what did Tanner Jones? 128 yards.
3 touchdowns, 2 catching, 1 rushing.
Okay, so another big. He had 6 touchdowns last week, so that's 9 in 2 weeks. For Tanner Jones, so another big game there for him. So, and Mishik throwing for 114 and 3 touchdowns for Bangor, another thing you don't typically see. So, so we're down to 7 teams. We have Aquinas, Onalaska, West Salem, Cashton, Bangor, DeSoto, and Luther, and they'll all have games next week. So we'll be back next Friday to kind of recap how they do. Between now and then, you can watch for coverage. Leading up to the 2nd round games and all of our coverage from tonight at lacrossetribune.com. We'll have videos up, there will be photos up. We had photographers at 4 games tonight, plus the games me and James covered, so we'll have stories up there on those, on West Salem, on everything else that happened tonight. We also had a couple cross-country teams qualify for state today too, and with a big meet coming on Saturday out of Maple Grove for maybe some more qualifiers, we'll see. And plus, UWL football.
And volleyball and soccer coming up.
And volleyball and soccer coming
coming
up.
days.
Yep, we had a story today. Westby volleyball team breaking new ground there, trying to get to a sectional for the first time at least in the 2000s. I know that much. So we'll see how they do on Saturday for that. So again, lacrossetribune.com is the portal for all this stuff. Hopefully you like coming and watching these videos. We'll be back to do another one on Friday. So thanks for being with us.